The colony ship Silver Dawn drifted through the dark of space like a giant lantern, carrying both humans and aliens toward a new world. Life on the ship was strict during duty hours but playful and mixed during rest time. Crew members from different species often gathered in the wide recreation hall to eat, talk, and sometimes tease each other. Among them was Lyra, a young alien girl from the Volari people. The Volari were tall, strong, and proud warriors. Their skin carried faint glowing patterns, and their voices had a sharp tone that made them sound like they were always ready for battle. Lyra had grown up hearing that her people were superior to humans, who were shorter, weaker, and too careful. To her, humans were strange little creatures who depended too much on machines instead of strength. Still, Lyra found them amusing, especially Daniel, one of the human engineers. Daniel was quiet, calm, and often lost in his work. He liked machines more than conversation. While others laughed and told stories, Daniel usually sat with his data tablet, checking reports, fixing plans, or sketching designs. His silence made him an easy target for jokes, at least in Lyra's eyes. One evening, the recreation hall was alive with voices. Aliens and humans shared food at long tables, and someone had started a small music game on the speaker system. Lyra sat with two of her Volari friends, pointing at Daniel, who was sitting alone in the corner, reading something on his tablet. "There he is again," one friend said with a grin. "The quiet human. Does he ever speak?" "He speaks only to his machines," Lyra replied with a laugh. "I think if you left him with a broken engine, he would be happier than with a room full of people." Her friends chuckled, and Lyra felt the spark of mischief rise in her. She wanted to prove again how light and fragile humans were compared to her own kind. She rose from her seat and walked toward Daniel. Daniel looked up briefly as she approached but said nothing. He returned his focus to the glowing screen in his hand. "Always reading, always working," Lyra said, standing in front of him. "Do you humans ever relax?" Daniel gave a small shrug. "Work keeps the ship running." His voice was calm, almost soft. Lyra smirked. "You need to laugh sometimes, human. Let me show you how." Before Daniel could reply, Lyra suddenly turned and sat down right on his lap. The act was meant as a playful joke. She was taller and stronger than him, and she imagined he would panic or push her away. Around the hall, a few crew members noticed and began to laugh. "Look," one Volari shouted. "The human is a chair now." Lyra grinned, expecting Daniel to blush or stammer. But to her surprise, Daniel did not react the way she thought. His tablet slipped from his hand, but instead of looking embarrassed, he simply looked up at her with calm, steady eyes. "Are you comfortable?" he asked in a quiet voice. The room burst into louder laughter. Some humans chuckled nervously while the aliens roared with amusement. Lyra felt a strange shiver in her chest. She had expected weakness, not calmness. Daniel's eyes held no fear, no nervousness. They were steady like deep water. For the first time, she felt unsure of her little game. She quickly stood up, pretending it was nothing. "See? Just a joke," she said, raising her hands. "Humans can be strong chairs too." The aliens laughed again, but Lyra found herself glancing back at Daniel. He had already picked up his tablet and returned to reading, as if nothing had happened. Still, something about the way he had looked at her stayed in her mind. Later that night, when the hall had grown quieter, Lyra walked the corridors of the ship with her two friends. They joked about what had happened. "You should have seen his face," one said. "He looked calm, but I bet his heart was racing." "Humans are always trying to hide their weakness," the other added. Lyra forced a laugh, but deep down, she wasn't sure. Daniel's eyes had not looked like weakness. They had looked like something else, something hidden. Daniel, alone in his quarters, sat at his small desk. He placed the tablet aside and stared at his hands. When Lyra had sat on him, something strange had stirred inside him. His muscles had tensed, his breath had quickened, but it was not from embarrassment. It had felt like an old switch deep inside his body had been touched. A memory not his own, like something ancient had whispered through his mind. Stand, endure, rise. He shook his head and tried to dismiss it. He was just an engineer. He was not a warrior like the Valari, nor a fighter like some of the other species on the ship. Still, he could not ignore the spark that had awakened inside him. The next day, the story of the joke spread through the crew. Aliens laughed whenever they saw Daniel, calling him the Quiet Chair. Even some humans smiled nervously at the name. But Daniel did not complain. He continued with his work, silent and steady. Only Lyra kept stealing glances at him, puzzled. Why did he not react with anger? Why did he not look ashamed? Why had she, the one making the joke, been the one to feel uneasy? She did not know it yet, but her small prank had been the first stone dropped into a still pond. The ripples were already spreading, unseen, toward a storm that would shake the whole ship, and perhaps the galaxy itself. The Silver Dawn was a peaceful ship most of the time, but peace never lasted long in the wide and dangerous galaxy. Only 2 days after Lyra's joke, alarms rang across the ship. Red lights flashed through the corridors and a sharp voice came over the speakers. Warning! Unknown ships approaching. All combat units to battle stations. The recreation hall emptied in seconds. Alien soldiers, strong and trained, grabbed weapons and armor. The Valari warriors looked eager for a fight. Humans, however, were told to stay behind the secured doors. They were engineers, farmers, medics, valuable for support but not meant for battle. Daniel stood among the humans in the lower deck, listening to the distant echoes of doors sealing shut. His chest tightened. Something inside him refused the idea of simply hiding while others fought. Outside the ship, dark raider craft swarmed like insects. Their weapons lit up the void, shooting beams that struck against the Silver Dawn's shields. The Valari fighters rushed forward, their glowing armor reflecting the blasts. Lyra was among them. She carried her long blade, the symbol of her people's honor. She loved the thrill of combat, but even she felt the weight of fear when she saw how many raider ships were out there. Back in the lower deck, Daniel's hands shook. He could hear faint thuds, explosions hitting the ship. Around him, humans crouched and whispered, some holding each other, some covering their ears. Then a sudden crash shook the floor. The wall at the far end of the corridor bent inward with a loud screech. A raider breaching pod had struck. Sparks flew as metal tore open. Smoke spilled into the air, and from the gap, armored raiders burst into the hall. Panic erupted. Humans screamed and scattered. The aliens had not expected raiders to break through so deep inside. Soldiers were far away, leaving the humans exposed. Raider aimed his weapon at a young human girl who had fallen to the floor. Daniel's body moved before his mind had time to think. He leapt forward, tackling the raider with a speed that surprised even himself. The weapon clattered across the floor. The raider snarled and swung his arm, but Daniel caught it, twisting with unnatural strength. He shoved the alien back against the broken wall, his heart pounding with a strange rhythm, his mind sharp like never before. Another raider rushed him, but Daniel grabbed a fallen metal bar and swung. The strike cracked against the raider's helmet, dropping the enemy to the floor. The other humans stared in shock. Daniel, the quiet engineer, was fighting like a trained soldier. His movements were fast, precise, and full of instinct, as if his body remembered something his mind did not. Meanwhile, Lyra and her team pushed the raiders back near the outer halls. Through her communicator, she suddenly heard a call. Lower deck breached. Raiders inside. Humans in danger. Her chest tightened. She sprinted toward the lower deck with 2 of her comrades. When she arrived, she froze at the sight. Raiders lay unconscious on the floor. Humans huddled behind broken tables for cover. And in the middle of it all, Daniel stood with the metal bar in his hands, his chest rising and falling fast, his eyes glowing with focus. Lyra could hardly believe it. The quiet human she had teased only days ago was standing like a warrior. His posture, his breath, even his gaze, all carried the fire of battle. The last raider lunged at him, and Daniel reacted in a flash. He sidestepped, grabbed the enemy's arm, and slammed him into the floor with surprising strength. The hall fell silent except for the distant hum of the ship's engines. Daniel. Lyra whispered, almost forgetting the chaos around them. He turned to her, breathing heavily. They broke through. I couldn't let them hurt anyone. Her warrior friend stared in disbelief. But he is human. How? Daniel himself did not understand. His hands shook as he dropped the metal bar. His heart was racing, but it was not fear. It was something deeper, something older. The rescued humans cheered, rushing to thank him. Some called him a hero. Others just stared with wide eyes, unable to understand how the quiet engineer had turned into a fighter in seconds. After the battle ended and the raiders were pushed back into space, the crew gathered to repair the damage. The Volari commanders reviewed the reports. When they reached the lower deck, soldiers confirmed what had happened. One human engineer had fought off nearly a squad of raiders. The commander frowned. Impossible. Humans are not trained for combat. But Lyra spoke. The Silver Dawn floated quietly after the battle. The scars of the raid still marked its metal hull, but inside, life slowly returned to order. Humans repaired broken walls, Volari soldiers cleaned weapons, and officers wrote long reports. But the story that spread fastest was not about the damage or the raiders. It was about Daniel. Everywhere he went, whispers followed him. Humans looked at him with new respect, while aliens glanced at him with suspicion or curiosity. He had fought when no one expected him to. He had defended lives with strength that seemed unnatural. Lyra noticed it most of all. She found herself watching him during meals, during meetings, and even during quiet hours in the corridors. The human who had once seemed so ordinary now carried a silent weight, like a hidden flame that could grow at any moment. One afternoon, the Volari commander called a meeting. Humans and aliens gathered in the training hall, where the walls glowed with faint lights. The commander's voice was firm as he addressed them. The raiders will return. They were testing us. Next time, they will bring more firepower. We must be ready. His eyes shifted to Daniel. And we must also understand this. Daniel felt the weight of every gaze. He wanted to step back, to disappear, but the commander gestured for him to step forward. You, the commander said, fought like a soldier without training. Explain. Daniel swallowed. I can't explain. It just happened. I saw people in danger and my body knew what to do. The hall was silent, then Lyra stepped forward. I saw him fight. His movements were not clumsy, they were sharp, precise. This was not luck, it was instinct. The commander crossed his arms. Then we will test this instinct. And so, for the first time in his life, Daniel entered the training arena. The arena floor was wide, made of smooth metal that could shift into different shapes. Alien warriors sparred there daily, practicing combat drills. Daniel had only watched from afar, never expecting to set foot inside. Choose an opponent, the commander ordered. Lyra stepped forward quickly. I will. Daniel blinked. You? But you're a warrior, she said with a faint smile. If you truly have strength, show me. The others watched eagerly. A few aliens smirked, expecting Lyra to easily overpower him. Some humans bit their lips, worried Daniel would be humiliated. The match began. Lyra moved fast, circling him with her glowing blade. Daniel had no weapon, only his hands. She lunged. Instinct surged through him. He ducked, rolling across the floor. Her blade cut through empty air. He rose smoothly, surprising even himself. She attacked again, faster this time. Daniel sidestepped, grabbed her wrist, and pushed, nearly throwing her off balance. Gasps echoed from the crowd. Lyra narrowed her eyes. This was no accident. Daniel was reading her moves, adapting as if he had trained for years. The fight continued, faster, sharper. Daniel's breath came heavy, but his body responded with perfect timing, dodging, blocking, striking at the right moments. When Lyra finally pressed forward with full strength, Daniel twisted behind her, locking her arm. The hall erupted in noise. Humans cheered, amazed. Aliens stared in disbelief. Daniel released her quickly, stepping back with wide eyes. I didn't mean to, he said. Lyra stood tall, breathing hard, but she smiled. No, you meant to protect yourself, and you did. You fought like a true warrior. From that day, Daniel trained with the Volari. He learned faster than anyone expected. What took months for others, Daniel picked up in days. His body seemed to remember every move. His reflexes grew sharper, his strikes stronger. Even the Volari soldiers began to respect him. Some still grumbled, refusing to believe a human could match them, but they could not deny the evidence. Daniel's potential was real. Lyra trained beside him, sometimes guiding, sometimes testing. At first, she had only been curious. But soon, she found herself admiring his focus, his patience, and the quiet determination that burned behind his eyes. One evening after training, she walked beside him down the corridor. "You surprise me every day," she admitted. Daniel gave a small smile. "I surprise myself too." "Do you know what it means?" she asked. He shook his head. "No. I only know that I don't want to stand by when people are in danger." She studied him. "That is what makes you dangerous, Daniel. Not your strength, but your heart. Valerie warriors fight for honor. You fight for others. That is why you grow stronger." But while Daniel trained, the threat outside grew darker. Scouts reported that the raiders had regrouped with larger fleets. The next attack would not be small. The commander gathered the crew again. "We face war," he declared. "We need every fighter, every mind, every hand. This ship must stand, or all aboard will fall." He looked at the humans. For the first time, he did not tell them to hide. Instead, he said, "Train, prepare. You will not be passengers anymore. You will be warriors beside us." The humans gasped, both afraid and proud. Daniel felt his heart pound. This was not only about him now. His actions had changed how the Volari saw all humans. That night, Daniel sat alone in the observation deck, staring at the stars. The galaxy stretched endlessly, cold and silent, but inside him a fire burned. He remembered the whispers again. Stand, endure, rise. Was this what it meant to be human? To be underestimated, yet rise when the moment demanded? Lyra joined him quietly, sitting beside him. For a long time they watched the stars without speaking. Finally, she said softly, "You carry something inside you, Daniel. Something your people have hidden for too long. When the raiders return, the galaxy will see it." Daniel did not answer, but his fists clenched. He did not want power. He only wanted to protect. But perhaps, he thought, protection was the greatest power of all. The Silver Dawn had spent days repairing damage from the first raid, but the calm was fragile. Scouts returned with urgent reports. The raiders were coming back, larger and more organized than before. Their fleet stretched across the stars like a dark shadow, armed with stronger weapons and armored ships designed for mass destruction. The Volari commander called a full meeting of the crew. Humans and aliens alike crowded into the strategy room, where a large holographic map showed the approaching enemy. "We face an attack that will test every ship, every soldier, every human and alien aboard," the commander said, voice low and steady. "If we fail, this colony will be lost." Daniel stood quietly in the back. He had trained with the Volari for weeks, learning their combat techniques and tactics. Yet seeing the enemy fleet, he felt the weight of reality. This was no practice, this was war. Lyra noticed his hesitation. She placed a hand lightly on his shoulder. "You are ready?" she whispered. "Trust yourself." He nodded, though doubt lingered. Strength alone would not win this battle. They needed strategy, speed, and courage. The first wave of raiders arrived before the ship could fully prepare. Explosions rocked the Silver Dawn as energy beams struck the outer hull. Alarms blared, warning lights flashing red across every corridor. The crew rushed to battle stations. Daniel stayed close to Lyra as they moved. His heart pounded, not with fear, but with focus. This was the moment all his training had been for. The raiders poured onto the outer decks, using boarding pods to breach the ship's defenses. Alien warriors clashed with them, blades flashing and energy weapons firing. The sounds of battle echoed through the hull. Daniel's instincts kicked in immediately. He ducked under a swinging arm, grabbed a weapon from a fallen soldier, and blocked a strike that would have hit Lyra. She stared, stunned. "You're incredible," she yelled over the chaos. He just nodded, feeling the rhythm of battle flow through him. It was as if his body remembered everything it needed to survive and protect. As the battle continued, the raiders proved smarter and faster than before. They coordinated attacks, targeting weak points in the ship's defenses. The Valeri soldiers were strong, but even they struggled to keep up. Daniel noticed patterns. He watched the raiders' movements and communicated silently with Lyra, pointing and gesturing. Together they guided groups of humans and aliens, organizing defensive positions and redirecting energy shields. Some of the human crew, inspired by Daniel's courage, began to fight rather than hide. They improvised weapons, blocked corridors, and even saved injured soldiers. The Valeri could not help but notice. Humans were no longer timid passengers. They were fighters. Midway through the battle, a large raider leader appeared, towering over the rest. Its armor was thick and its weapons deadly. Lyra prepared to face it, but Daniel stepped forward. "I can help," he said firmly. Lyra hesitated. "You? Alone?" "I'm not alone," he replied, gesturing to the humans fighting beside them. "We fight together." With that, Daniel moved forward, guiding the humans to flank the raider while he dodged its attacks with uncanny speed. Every strike he made was precise, every movement measured. He anticipated the enemy's moves before they happened. The raider swung its massive weapon, but Daniel caught it mid-swing, twisting with strength that seemed beyond human limits. With a sudden, powerful push, he sent the raider stumbling back. The humans followed, attacking in coordinated strikes Daniel had directed. Within moments, the raider leader fell. The hall erupted with cheers, but the battle was far from over. More raiders were coming, and the ship was damaged in several sections. Yet the morale of the crew had shifted. Where fear had once ruled, determination now burned. Later, when the battle subsided, the crew gathered to assess losses and repair systems. Daniel's HFY Conver. The silver dawn floated silently among the stars, but the calm was deceiving. Scouts had reported that the raider fleet had regrouped, stronger and faster, armed with weapons that could tear through the ship's defenses. The crew knew this would be no ordinary attack. This was the test, the moment when every skill, every instinct, every ounce of courage would be challenged. Daniel stood on the observation deck, staring at the approaching ships. His heart beat steadily, not with fear, but with anticipation. The first raid had awakened something inside him, something primal and powerful. The second would show the full extent of what humans were capable. Lyra approached quietly. Her glowing eyes reflected the red lights from the bridge. "Are you ready?" she asked. Daniel nodded. "I don't know what this will be like, but I do know. I won't back down." Her smile was faint but full of admiration. "Then let's show them what we can do, together." The alarms sounded as the raider fleet appeared on the sensors. Red beams streaked across the blackness of space, and the shields of the Silver Dawn flared with energy. Alien soldiers rushed to battle stations, humans took positions, and the ship trembled under the first wave of attacks. Daniel moved among the crew, giving directions, guiding humans and aliens alike. He had grown into a leader over the past weeks, but today something deeper stirred. His instincts, honed and awakened, flowed through him effortlessly. Every movement, every decision was precise. The raiders boarded the ship in coordinated squads. Explosions shook the corridors, sparks flying from damaged walls. Aliens fought fiercely, but the humans were ready. Inspired by Daniel's courage, they defended corridors, blocked entrances, and improvised weapons. Daniel's body reacted instinctively. He dodged strikes, caught falling weapons, and moved faster than he thought possible. His strikes were powerful, his blocks precise. The humans around him followed his lead, moving with a confidence they had never known. Lyra fought beside him, her blade a blur of motion. She had trained for years, yet Daniel matched her speed and awareness. He read the enemy, anticipating attacks, guiding their movements. Every time a raider lunged at her, Daniel intercepted, protecting her with timing that seemed almost supernatural. "Daniel!" she shouted over the chaos. "How are you doing this?" "I don't know," he replied, twisting to block another strike. "It's instinct. Something inside me woke when you sat on me." Her eyes widened, remembering that moment. A playful joke had unleashed a force she could not have imagined. A massive raider commander appeared in the corridor, armored and armed with weapons that could crush walls. Lyra prepared to attack, but Daniel stepped forward. "We fight together," he said calmly. "Humans and aliens, everyone." The raider lunged, but Daniel moved faster than any human should. He sidestepped, grabbed the raider's arm, and twisted with a strength that stunned the others. Sparks flew from the enemy's armor as Daniel pushed him back. Humans followed his lead, attacking with renewed courage and determination. The raider stumbled, then fell, defeated by the combined effort of humans and Daniel's leadership. Around them the crew cheered, but the battle was far from over. The raiders kept coming, wave after wave, yet the morale of the crew had shifted completely. Fear was replaced by determination, and determination was stronger than any weapon. Daniel felt something inside him surge. His muscles moved with ease, his mind sharp and clear. He realized he had unlocked more than physical strength. His senses, his instincts, and his leadership had all awakened. This was the beast the Valari had whispered about. Humans were not weak. They were unpredictable, adaptable, and capable of greatness when pushed to their limits. Lyra noticed the change. "Daniel," she said softly, watching him guide the humans and aliens like a conductor leading an orchestra. "You've become something more." He nodded, though he barely had time to speak. Every moment mattered. Every movement counted. He protected the injured, led the attacks, and inspired others without needing to say a word. The battle raged for hours. Explosions rocked the ship, corridors were torn apart, and alarms blared constantly. Yet Daniel and the humans fought with a rhythm that matched the aliens. It was no longer about fear. It was about survival, courage, and the unbreakable will to protect. At one critical moment, a raider squad cornered a group of humans near the engine room. Daniel reacted instantly. He sprinted through the debris, dodging falling metal, and charged at the raiders. He moved with power and precision, disarming them and throwing them back one by one. The humans he saved joined the fight, striking with cleverness and strength that surprised even the aliens. Lyra watched, awe in her eyes. "The beast has fully awakened," she whispered. By the time the raiders retreated, the Silver Dawn was battered, but the crew stood victorious. Daniel, breathing heavily, looked around at the humans who had fought beside him. They were not afraid anymore. They had found a strength inside themselves that no one had expected. The Valari commander approached, his expression serious but respectful. "I have underestimated your people," he said. "Not anymore. Humans are dangerous and powerful. You have changed everything here today." Daniel shook his head. "I didn't do this alone. Everyone fought together." Lyra stepped beside him, smiling proudly. "Perhaps. But you were the spark, Daniel. You awakened something inside all of us." The crew began repairs immediately, but the mood was no longer one of fear. Humans and aliens alike had seen the truth. Underestimating humans was a grave mistake. That night, Daniel stood at the observation deck looking at the stars. The galaxy stretched endlessly before him, vast and silent. He thought about the instincts that had guided him, the strength that had awakened, and the courage that had inspired others. Somewhere deep inside, the voice returned. "Stand. Endure. Rise." He clenched his fists, understanding finally that this was not just about fighting raiders. It was about humanity's potential, the hidden power that could face any challenge, overcome any obstacle, and rise when the moment demanded. Lyra joined him quietly. "The galaxy will remember this," she said softly. "Your people, humanity, they will never be underestimated again." Daniel nodded. We'll be ready. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. And so, under the endless stars, the Silver Dawn and its crew rested for now. But they knew the battles ahead would be even greater. Humanity's beast had awakened, and the galaxy would soon see its full strength. The Silver Dawn floated among the stars, its hull scarred but intact. The raiders had retreated, their fleet scattered and defeated. For the first time in weeks, the crew felt a sense of calm, but it was calm built on vigilance, not ignorance. They knew this victory was only the beginning. Humans and aliens alike moved through the corridors with a new understanding. Where fear had once ruled, respect now guided them. The humans had proven themselves capable, and the Valari warriors who had once doubted them now looked at them with awe. Daniel walked through the ship quietly, observing the repairs, the training, and the camaraderie that had grown stronger after the battle. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. The battles were over for now, but the challenge of protecting the ship, the colony, and his people would never end. Lyra joined him in the observation deck, the faint glow of her skin lighting her thoughtful face. "You've changed everything, Daniel," she said softly. "Humans are no longer underestimated. You showed us what your people can do." Daniel shook his head. "I didn't do it alone. Everyone fought together. Every human, every alien. We all did this." She smiled, but her eyes glinted with admiration. "True. But you were the spark. You awakened something inside all of us. Something we didn't know humans could possess." He looked out at the stars, remembering the instincts that had guided him, the courage that had driven him, and the strength that had surprised even himself. The beast inside him was no longer a secret. It had become a symbol. The Valari commander called a council meeting, inviting humans and aliens alike to discuss the future. The battle against the raiders had shown one undeniable truth. The galaxy would not tolerate weakness, and unity would be their greatest weapon. "Humans," the commander began, his voice firm, "you have proven yourselves, not only in strength but in strategy, courage, and adaptability. Your people are no longer to be seen as fragile or dependent. You have earned the respect of the Valari." Whispers spread among the crew. Humans exchanged glances, pride shining in their eyes. They had finally earned recognition not through machines or authority, but through bravery and resilience. Daniel stepped forward. "We are honored," he said quietly. "But this respect is not enough. We must continue to train, to prepare, and to protect, not just ourselves, but everyone who depends on us. We cannot stop here." The room fell silent, then murmurs of agreement rose. Lyra smiled proudly. Daniel had not only fought, they had all learned that courage, instinct, and determination could turn ordinary humans into forces the galaxy would never forget. Over the next weeks, the crew trained harder than ever. Humans and aliens practiced together, sharing techniques, combining skills, and learning to rely on each other. Daniel became a symbol of what humans could achieve, a living example of adaptability, leadership, and courage. Lyra often trained beside him, testing him, laughing with him, and watching the humans rise to challenges she had never thought they could face. She thought back to the one